Welcome in. It's the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. On this Monday, we're kicking off a brand new week. Hopefully everyone had a fantastic weekend. Got rocking and rolling as football is in full swing on every level. Certainly took a lot of that in this weekend myself, Zach, watching Friday night.
There was football this weekend?
Saturday night, Sunday night, and there's even one more game tonight in case you didn't get enough. So there you go. It just continued to rock and roll. Best time of the year. How was your football-filled weekend as well, Zach? I know you got to see, obviously, the Oklahoma State game and maybe tuned into some others here and there, but I'm sure it was loaded up for you this week.
So I was like every other Big 12 fan. And I'm guessing SEC fan. I watched Texas get the brake speed off of them.
Wow.
So much so that they're changing quarterbacks.
Yep.
Which Casey Thompson probably should have been the starting quarterback to begin with, but I digress. Watch the Oklahoma State game, obviously. Watch the Penn State game. I think that's it. I was so busy Saturday, and then I was a terrible student this week and put off every bit of my homework until Sunday. Every bit of it was due on Sunday. I had to write a 1,000-word essay. I had to write a 750-word essay. I had to take 2 tests. I had to read about 95 pages worth of text. It sucked. So I watched the second half of the Kansas City game.
Yeah.
Super good.
Mm-hmm. That was the half to watch, yeah.
That was good, man. That was a hell of a game.
It was, actually, yeah.
I watched like the first half of Arizona, Tennessee.
Yeah, also a shocker for a lot of people.
How in the world does a professional... I understand high school or even like terrible college teams. How does a professional football team get 4 penalties in one drive? And they were back to back to back to back. And what's ironic about it is I think it was a hold or a false start, which prompted the crew to say, Arizona, they were the most penalized team in the NFL, and then they get 3 more consecutive. It was wild. How does that happen?
It's something you don't see very often. Luckily for them, it didn't even turn out to hurt them at all, as Tennessee showed no signs of life in that game.
Yeah, and there were some weird outcomes.
There really was.
Pittsburgh coming back and beating Buffalo. That was wild.
I'm not sure any of us would have had Green Bay and Buffalo going 0-1
I tell
to start
you.
the season.
And I understand there's going to be growing pains, but I did not expect Houston to just whoop Jacksonville.
That one, too. I mentioned to you, that was, to me, it kind of seemed like a must-win situation, which is weird in week 1, but all the hype that we talked about with Jacksonville bringing Trevor Lawrence in, they go in and look pretty below average.
Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence, he didn't look terrible. What was it, like 30 of 55 or something for over 300 yards and 3 picks?
They had him throwing a ton.
Not terrible.
They abandoned the run.
It was weird.
Which is something that if you're going to throw a rookie QB in and you're going to abandon the run on him pretty quickly, that's not easy to do. And, of course, Urban Meyer afterward, it's all, well, those are unexcusable mistakes that he made in his first game.
That's coaching, Urban.
Wow.
I love the memes that have come out about that game, and it's just SpongeBob getting up out the chair, and he's like, all right, I'm going to head out. Yep. And it's Urban Meyer. And it's like, well, my brain issues come back. I'm going to head out.
Man, I'm telling you, it's it was really weird to see. I honestly thought the Texans might win 1-2 games max this year, and look at them, they're 1-0. How about that? With no Deshaun Watson.
That's the game.
That's the game. That's right
it.
There.
They're gonna lose the rest.
Yeah, that was the only game. Maybe they might play Jacksonville again this year. I'll have to check.
You want to talk about a revenge game? My God, the revenge tour starts week 2, baby.
Yes, it does. Yeah, there was a lot of good games yesterday. Crazy outcomes and a bunch of them, like Zach said, that we didn't expect. The underdogs had a huge day all over the league, which usually doesn't happen in week 1. So that was certainly interesting to see. We'll look at a couple of those games, a few of those games coming up later in the show throughout the week as we build up to week 2. Monday Night Football tonight. We'll give you our picks later on, too, in the second hour for that. Oklahoma State, we're going to get to their game here in just a minute. Obviously, another close one coming down to it against Tulsa on Saturday. A few more games we'll look at out of college football and another fun weekend there as well coming up in the show. As far as Oklahoma State, Zach, look, I tried to tell y'all, said this would be a lot closer than people would think. And I had the final score at 28-20.
Yeah.
Oh, it was 3 off. I was 3 off, man. As soon as it started coming on, I was like, man, towards the last few possessions there, I was like, this is really going to happen. And I obviously had my reasons. I wasn't just pulling that pick out of thin air. I had my reasons. Davis Brin, I thought was going to end up playing a little bit better. And he did compared to week 1 against UC Davis. I thought they'd run the ball somewhat effectively. And then I wasn't quite sure what to expect out of Spencer Sanders, just like a lot of us. This was his week 1. So I didn't really know what all we were going to get out of him. And I'll say this as well, Zach, through 2 weeks, luckily for Oklahoma State, they have played 2 teams who really lack the offensive playmakers to really make it hurt in crunch time, because these last 2 performances are going to have to end up serving as building blocks, or this could get ugly in Big 12 play. I mean that, because these are 2 teams in Missouri State and Tulsa that they really had no business being as close as it was in both of these. And again, if they had seasoned guys at all their positions, if these were experienced teams, we may not be sitting here talking about 2-0, because Oklahoma State has let, and I'm sure this was the message too from coaches this after the game, hey, we let 2 teams hang around way too long. Like, we let them hang around way too long and actually gave them multiple chances. Luckily for us, they didn't capitalize at the end on them, and we're still 2-0, which is the good part. You look at this and say, hey, yeah, rough couple of games, but you still have 2 wins. You can do that with a team like OSU and say, yeah, it wasn't great, but W's are on the board, and we're going into Game 3 of our non-conference play still undefeated, which is certainly the goal.
Yeah, it's weird because it's starting to look less and less like an anomaly, that Missouri State game. Now, they are still missing Hunter Woodard. That doesn't mean that Hunter Woodard comes back and all of a sudden the play calling is fixed, right, and that the run game is better.
And the word is, right, he should be back next week, I believe.
So Gundy was asked during the presser whether or not he was going to be back, and he said I don't like to predict things like that, because he thought Tay Martin was going to be good for Tulsa.
Right.
So it's still questionable, and I would probably lean more towards the positive side of questionable than the negative, but we still got a week. We still got a week to go, and obviously having him back, that would be huge. That would fix some pretty big issues there. But and you can look across, and you could give excuses. The receivers, you had a lot of young guys playing receiver. You've got a quarterback that was his first game back, and I know he made progressions, but it was his first game, so you got to give him time to get his feet wet. But if you look at how predictable the play calling was, I mean, it was you're looking at a pass on first down, you're looking at run second and third, and a punt, or you're looking at run pass on third, and it was runs up the middle to the left side every single time. I mean, it got to the point where you could almost say, all right, this is what's going to happen.
Sure.
This is what they're going to do. I think that there are some issues that can be fixed, and the run game for as bad as it was because of the play calling, if you look at the run game between the Missouri State game and the Tulsa game, the run game was improved, especially since you were dealing with so many injuries in the receiver corps. Now, if you have guys like Tay Martin back and Tay's healthy, and Gundy expects Tay to be back for Boise State. If you get him back, if you get if you get Braden back, or if Blaine's going to be back, but I mean, you look at what Jaden Bray did, and you look at what Bryson did, and it's so funny. I caught some pretty good flack on this. The touchdown catch from Bryson was one of the best touchdown catches in Boone Pickens Stadium history.
It was unbelievable.
I did not say the best. I did not say top 3, top 5. But if you look at this kid, his first, real action as a starter, packed out crowd, it's 130 degrees on the turf, and he gets thrown and out that he has to get down at least 1 foot as he's falling out of bounds. It's such a bang play, and he does it. Yeah. And that's the kind of stuff you can see from him throughout the year, and that's I think that's what was important. What Gundy said, he said, you look at those freshmen, they're still really young, but you saw on Saturday what they can bring.
Yeah,
and I think that's really important.
That catch was great. It was fantastic. And the fact that he was adjusting at the point of the catch and then managing to stay in bounds in the end zone. I mean, that's an unbelievably high level of difficulty.
And that's the beauty of Casey Dunn. And I'm still torn on it because I'm not in any way saying that Casey Dunn isn't a good offensive coordinator or that it can't get better or anything like that. It just, you look at these first two games and you look at some of the play calling and some of the decision making, and it's like, what in the world is going on? Are you calling this because of the offensive line problems right now, because of the depth issues? Is this because you don't have the receivers? I mean, some of these plays just, they didn't make any sense. But then you look at Jaden Bray, who's playing only his third year of organized football ever, and you look at that impressive touchdown catch. He leads the receivers in yardage. You look at Bryson Green and that touchdown catch. I mean, there were some glimmers of hope. And I'm not saying that Oklahoma State's going to struggle the rest of the year and they're going to win 4 games. But if things don't start to improve, especially before Boise's better than Tulsa. Boise's a hell of a lot better than Missouri State, and so you've got a tall order on Saturday if you can't figure some of those simple things out.
Yeah, and I'll say this: look, as far as Casey Dunn's performance as play caller, this one's at the bottom of games I've seen him call. There's been a lot of good ones, right? He's been dialing up the right plays at the right times, but this one was, I thought, just watching throughout the entire game, it was much worse than Missouri State to me. Because the predictability was there, but it wasn't just that, and maybe it's because they're still adjusting to some of these new players and all that. But that's probably not a good excuse at all. But when you're running it on third down and long, third and medium, and they're not even creative run plays,
it's the same plays you've been running.
When you're throwing bubble screens to the outside that are also extremely predictable,
every first down.
There's a reason why really good teams have the bubble screen in their back pocket for every now and again. Maybe once a game. That's about it. Other than that, they don't run it 5-6 times a game. And the other part of it, too, is I don't understand. I've had this issue going in since last year. Why are a lot of these throws always back to the sidelines? Why are we throwing east to west and not north to south? We should be working the ball vertically down the field. I'm not saying let's take deep shots all day, but work the middle of the field. It doesn't even have to be a long pass. It can be an intermediate pass. Mm-hmm. And maybe you say, well, the people that would come back on this would say, it's Spencer's first game. We're trying to get him back out. That's over with. I said that coming into this year. I don't care that he had to miss the first week because of COVID. He's back now, and this isn't his first game of his career. We don't give him a pass for everything because it's his first game of the season. He's been there, he's done that. And so I would honestly like to know how much influence Mike Gundy is having on these play calls. I really would, because I'm not naive enough to think it's just Casey Dunn the entire time. But it was like you said, I think predictable is the best word. We could have sat there and paused the game and said, here's what's about to happen. It would happen. And if you think we can do that, a defensive coordinator can do that when he's looking at the offense. So that was my biggest issue. I thought the play calling was really bad, to be completely honest with you. I thought that the entire game. There's really no other way for me to put it. Now, you are right. There are a couple of times where, the players ended up making something happen on even a lower tier type of play call. I thought Green's catch was, like I said, just unbelievable. Not a lot of guys anywhere are going to go up and make that catch in traffic like that. Really, they aren't. That was a special catch. LD saving them in a way with that long punt return with 98 yards. I mean, was that second longest in OK State history. That's insane. And he wasn't having a great day on the ground again, and he's making a play on special teams. So give him credit there. And then of course the other bright spot for me, certainly like you mentioned, Tay Martin goes out there, can't continue, retweaks the ankle, whatever. You've got Braden Johnson also not playing. So you're not only asking, and this is not another excuse I would make for calling plays. You're not only asking your guys to go out there, young guys at receiver, you're asking them to learn on the fly, which they are doing too. But there's athleticism there. They know how to catch a football. They know how to run different routes besides the ones we mentioned. They can get open and give them that opportunity is what I'm saying. And I think Jaden Bray established himself as one of the go-to guys. I'd like to see when Tay comes back how much action he'll continue to get. I think he deserves a lot more looks. The touchdown that he had, right, the first one, it was again all him. It was a good throw. Spencer got him the ball, but he nearly fell down and able to keep his balance. That was really impressive. And he got through a couple guys. So good to see that from Jaden Bray. He had a couple of good catches, and without his performance, we may be looking at a different outcome there. So that was really something to see. Again, Bryson, it wasn't just the catch he had, but he looks composed out there. He looks like he belongs, at that wide receiver position. Things are going to keep on coming to him. So there were certainly, some positives on the offensive side of the ball. But and the other part of it, Zach, too, it took way too long. You're saving everything for the fourth quarter, really, to do all your damage.
Well, and there's a good chance that if LD doesn't break that 98-yard return, that you don't get the spark that they needed. And here's the problem.
For sure.
Here's the problem that I had is there were so many 3-and-outs that the defense was out there so much. And then you get a Tulsa touchdown, which results in the LD kick return, which puts Oklahoma State back on top, which then in turn puts the defense right back out on the field. And that to me was great for LD because it obviously sparked that offensive comeback in the fourth quarter. But these coaches have to figure out a way to, and it's on the team too. I mean, obviously you have to be able to convert. You got to be able to move the ball down the field. But they have got to figure out a way to keep the defense on the sidelines longer because there will be at least another 2 or 3 games this year where you're dealing with 115, 120, 130 degrees. And if the defense is playing, 70-plus snaps and they're on the field more than half the game, and you go back to the Missouri State game and they gave up that score late and they gave up a field goal late and everyone's like, oh, my God, the defense. I have seen more people complain about the defense the past few weeks. This defense has been stellar. This defense has been so good because they give up a score late. It's because they've been on the field the whole time because the offense can't convert.
Well, the defense won them the game, and first of all, in game 1, and secondly, in game 2, had a big hand in it. They made plays. I think it's what do people want? Them to go out there and cause 4 turnovers a game and score a touchdown? I mean,
which, to be fair, you had a pick 6 in like the second play of the game, which called back on the defensive holding.
Yeah.
And then they had a fumble recovery, which gets called back on another defensive penalty. Yeah. So
my only issue with the defense this week was that there were multiple times, including that last touchdown Tulsa had, they couldn't get guys off the field in time.
That was embarrassing.
They're trying to sub guys in,
that was weird. And
you've got dudes running all over the field, and Tulsa's ready, and they snapped the football.
I will say the penalty they got for illegal substitution. They were like on the 4 or 5 yard line or whatever it was. Mike Gundy was sprinting down the sidelines trying to call a timeout, and there were 2 refs there, and they just were not paying attention.
And that happens at times. But the fact that and Jim Knowles was even asked about it. He mentioned it. He's like, I didn't know. I didn't like that. I didn't know what was going on. Like, what do you mean? What is going on then? This can't happen. It's week 2. Yeah, it's early, but you can't be having multiple legal substitution calls.
Those are bad mistakes.
And if you saw, Zach, when it happened, was when Tulsa went no huddle.
Yes.
They threw the tempo off, and all of a sudden it was like the defense had never seen a no tempo before and didn't know how to react to it and get guys out there.
Which is weird because that's what Oklahoma State runs. Oklahoma State's they've ran that no tempo, up tempo for 15 years.
Right, the no huddle is what I mean. So up tempo, but same thing. So when you see that, it's like you got to be able to adjust. Now again, you look at what Malcolm had 13 more tackles. This dude is going to end up leading in tackles again the entire FBS before it's all said and done. I think there's clearly bright spots there. Good to see Trey come in and make plays when he got the chance in the second half. That was something that's not easy to do when you're forced to sit out and you're kicked out of a first half there. Certainly a bright spot as well. So, the defense is not who you blame here. When you're the offense, and we'll save some of this here for just a minute, but I'll throw this out. Here's what I'll let people chew on before we dissect a little bit about what Spencer Sanders did. When you're an offense that goes out there, and in the first half alone, you have only 7 possessions. 7 in the first half. And you had 5 punts in that first half, and the pick 6. Okay,
you had more punt yards than you had total offense in the first half.
Yeah, that can't happen. I mean, it's not the defense, man. If the defense were having a problem, then when that resulted, Tulsa would have been up, 3 or 4 touchdowns going into halftime, and that wasn't the case. So certainly there was a lot of woes going on, and again, I'd like to see next week, this upcoming week, hopefully you get Tay Martin back. I want to see how he plays with Spencer under center, and that's kind of where we'll leave it here before we take our break, because when we come back, we'll take a look at what Spencer did. There was good and there was bad, plain and simple. We'll talk about that and look ahead to what he's going to need to do coming in next week to make sure Oklahoma State can get out of this non-conference schedule going 3-0. It's coming up next year on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you. Oklahoma State gets a close win over Tulsa on Saturday. A game that, honestly, Zach's kind of, I know there's people that like the defensive matchups out there. There's still some. But the first half was a snooze fest, man. I'm not going to lie. Second half, it finally started ramping up. You get some big plays. Obviously, LD's was exciting. I thought that Jalen Warren's touchdown run, talk about a good catch from Bryson. One of the better runs I've seen in a long time, where he's breaking multiple tackles. He's getting dudes on skates.
That may be one of the top touchdowns we see this year.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, he's piled up. He's finding a way to get backwards and then lateral and then to vertical. It was awesome. It was great to see. I think he's got a bright future at that spot. As far as quarterback play, looking straight at Spencer Sanders, giving him his report card here. Initially, clearly, when this game started, he looked bad. Plain and simple. He was 1 for 4 in the first quarter. They threw it 4 times, and he was 1 for 4. He had the pick six, and the pick six. Look, I know it's his first start again, but that's just a bad throw. Every way you look at it, that's a bad throw. And he did, on that throw, he did the same things that we've talked about you can't do anymore. He's clearly staring down the receiver from the second he gets the ball, which is a no-no. He either somehow didn't see the defender that was right in his way, which I have a hard time believing, or he just threw a really bad ball, which is probably a mixture there. But things have to improve. Plain and simple, they have to improve, because a pick six in a game later on against a better overall team, especially in conference play, could be it. That could be the turning point in a game. It's one thing to throw an interception, and the guy gets it all the way back and scores is another. So that was not good. He did have some good plays as far as, it was good to see him take off and run when he did at times. The big rush was good all the way till the end, until he's carrying the ball in the wrong hand and he gets knocked out and nearly fumbles and costs the game. That was really close. When they showed that review, it was, again, maybe by an inch that dude's foot was out. Real close.
The problem I had with that, it was in the wrong hand, but he's looking over his left shoulder, not realizing there's a defender coming across the middle,
right,
5 yards ahead of him.
Right.
If he sees that guy, then that's not even an issue. He doesn't even get hit. He gets out of bounds. It may be 4 or 5 yards upfield, but he gets out of bounds, and then all of a sudden there is no 6-minute review and everyone kind of cools off. You probably score a play or two later.
Yeah. No, that's also a good point to make on part of it. I thought that, the highlights, there were obviously some good moments. The touchdown catch from Bryson was also a pretty good ball, if you think about it. Location-wise, I thought that was a good place to put that ball, really kind of only giving him a chance to do so. But he goes 15-26, 173 yards, the 2 touchdowns, which, again, on the other one, you really had Jaden Bray doing the heavy lifting, but he got it done, and then the interception. And, you saw him, I think it was 10 carries he had in the game, too, that he turned in those 81 yards, a lot on that big play. But they're certainly going to get him involved. Although, again, Zach, you don't want to necessarily have to see your quarterbacks leading and rushing, which he was.
I was a little surprised at the end of the game when I saw that.
Yeah, I kind of was too when I looked back at the stats. Like, well, I guess that kind of does make sense if you think about it, that he had the most. But it's one thing to grade a brand new quarterback. It's another to grade one that's had the experience. I'd like to see if he does improve coming into Boise State. I think it's a tougher matchup overall. Clearly, you're on the road, you're on that blue turf. It's different. It's going to be a different environment. So we'll see. But honestly, for me, Zach, all in all, looking at what he did in this game, could have been worse, I suppose. But I've seen this movie a few times before.
Could have been a lot better.
I've seen this movie with Spencer Sanders, man. I just have. To me, he's kind of like that Larry David meme, the one where they zoom in on Larry's face and he's kind of like, That's kind of what I thought about
like the
him.
girl drinking the pop.
Yes.
Maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
No. Because there's literally, and people, you could sit there in a game and you could watch Spencer Sanders play in that game against Tulsa, and there would be times, especially when you start and you're like, ugh. And then he keeps going, you're like, well, he
and then the pick six.
And then it's, well, he threw.
The break off that big run, and then he fumbles.
Literally, is that not the reaction? It's a roller coaster affair watching Spencer Sanders. And
definitely a glass case of emotion.
yeah, it really is, man. And there's been times where he's been pretty solid. There has. You go back and you look at that performance in the bowl game. Clearly, that's one of his better performances he's ever had. He was loose. He was letting it fly. He was accurate. He was making plays. I thought he came into this one rusty. I thought the interception, again, was something that I'll look back on and say, man, that just, at this point, it's exactly what we said can happen, and it did. And then just the couple of touchdowns and the amount of yards, but that was also part into the play calling was not good, as we said. The offense was just not moving the football. So things have to improve. I think it's vital, though, Zach, that he did get in right here in game 2, get him this third game against Boise, which again should be a nice challenge for him before he comes into a schedule with Kansas State, and knowing now that they just lost their quarterback, which is Skylar Thompson is.
I will say I hate it for him because he came back to play another year, and I really like Skylar Thompson.
I do too.
Kleiman says that it's not. They don't think it's a season ending, just out indefinitely. So most likely going to be out for the Oklahoma State game, which obviously gives Oklahoma State a pretty. I don't want to say a huge advantage, but it's a much bigger advantage than they would have. If Skylar Thompson,
and it was last year too, right? Skylar wasn't playing.
He was out. Yeah.
That could be 2 years in a row. You're not facing Skylar Thompson when you play them. But I don't know what else you thought about Spencer. But I just, again, there's things you can do to make a case for good and bad. But if you look at it from that angle, you're also saying, here we are again having to make the case for good and bad when we want to make a case for good. Spencer
was very, very average. He had some plays where you were just like, oh my God, dude. What, like, I understand they called a play, but can you not see that the defensive line has shifted? They've shifted down towards the right, which would be your left, and the linebackers shifted over a little bit, and they know that there's going to be a run on 3rd and long. So maybe tell Jalen Warren, hey, you know what? I know we're going to be going this way. Take it that way, and go the other way.
You just checked off one of our things that we said this offseason. Pre-snap reads.
It didn't happen, and then you get the fumble, and that's look ahead of yourself. I mean, I understand. I've got someone coming behind me, kind of from behind and towards the side. So I'm like, I'm gonna look over there, and then all of a sudden you get a guy coming across the middle. Like, well, maybe you probably should have paid attention to see if there was a safety coming, which there was. But then, like you said, there were some plays like before the fumble that he broke that run off. That was really impressive. There were a couple of throws he made that were the throw to Jaden Bray across the middle, and then obviously Bray made the play, but then you get the throw on the outside to Bryson Green. That was impressive. There were some plays where it was like, wow, okay, all right. Very, very, very average, and I'll just say that if they play the way they did against Tulsa and they struggle and they don't score to the 4th quarter, this defense is good enough that I think it'll keep them in the game. But Boise State's a much better team than Tulsa. If they play the way they did against Tulsa this Saturday against Boise State, they're in trouble. Period. They're in trouble.
And that leads me to kind of put my cherry on it here for the day for their performance. Bottom line, they're very fortunate to be 2-0.
100%.
Very, very fortunate to be 2-0. One of those you get done with Shane at quarterback. The next one you get done with Spencer. So you can hang your hat on that and say, hey, we interchanged guys. But a part of it too, Zach, is we mentioned this defense coming back and the experience they brought back, and thank goodness they did. Because if they didn't, and we're dealing with a bunch of young guys on defense too, it's possible you're 0-2.
Which you go back to last year, and the defense had to win some games, but it wasn't the case. It didn't get to where the defense had to come up with big stops until later in the year. Obviously, you look at that Kansas State game in November, the defense had to come up with some big stops because the offense couldn't run the ball. And now the run game really hurt Oklahoma State last year, defensive run game. And then you had the TCU game, the defense, now obviously you lose that game, but the defense kept Oklahoma State in it. And then this year, I think this defense is obviously very, very good. And you look at their first two performances, great. I mean, if you get those types of defensive performances throughout the year, and you get better run game and better play calling, you're going to win a lot of ball games this year. But the problem is you have defenses you have this defense that's out on the field for 70% of a game in the first two games. If it continues at this rate, this defense isn't going to be this good for long, because guys are going to start falling. You're going to start getting exhaustion, and they're going to have to come off, or they're going to get hurt because they're on the field so much. And then all of a sudden, now the two deep is good, but if the defense is on the field 70% of the season, I mean that's obviously not good at all. I will say, Jason Taylor, I hate that you can only have 3 safeties on the field at one time. I'd almost say pull a corner and just have a rover back there, because Jason Taylor, I wish he had another year of eligibility. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he'll be back next year, and maybe 2 depending on COVID. I'm not sure. But Jason Taylor played. He almost had a pick 6 that was called back, and then nearly had another there. I'd want to say mid to late second quarter.
Yeah.
Nearly had it. And if he comes up with that one, it's gone.
It was
all the way back.
When he was running that one back, I was like, man, all this guy can do is score defensive touchdowns, special teams touchdowns.
Yes.
That's all he does.
Yeah.
He's going to do it again.
Dude's an absolute magnet.
Man, yeah, I agree. He's really talented. He looks good when he's out there on the field. Also saw this today, Zach. Our good friend Eli Letterman over there at Tulsa World dropped this news from Vegas Insider, and I'm looking at it right now. It is confirmed for sure. Oklahoma State comes into this weekend at Boise State as a 4.5-point underdog.
First of all, I read that wrong this morning. I realized I was wrong maybe 20 minutes after I read it, but when I first saw it, I was like, I could see this shrinking a little bit, because I read it as Oklahoma State 4.5.
Yeah.
And not 4.5 underdogs. And I was like, oh, Oklahoma State's 4.5 right now. Before Friday,
that's going down.
Don't be surprised if we're set at like 1.5. And then I was like, well, let me. Oh, I see that. This is Oklahoma State underdogs. Now I'm looking at this thinking, wouldn't be surprised if this thing climbed to 5.5 before it was all said and done.
Yeah,
and that's just based on Oklahoma State's run game and play calling the last 2 games.
Boise State 1-1. UCF beat them to open the season, and they
a hell of a game.
Beat UTEP last week. So yeah.
First of all, we talked about. I know we got to get to a break. You mentioned UCF, future Big 12.
Yes,
getting a win. Did you happen to see the other pick? My other pick that I switched from, the BYU pick.
Which one did you? Oh, the BYU pick. Yeah, they got it done.
My God,
over Utah.
Boy, the BYU, man, they're solid.
The ginger ale was flowing in the BYU fan base.
That was so funny. I wish. So I retweeted something the other day, and it was. No context college football, and it was just a picture of 2 fans holding up signs, and one of them was like, frick Utah. And so I retweeted it, and someone was like, I'm gonna love having BYU in the Big 12. And this girl, she's like, please be more creative than polygamy and underwear jokes. We are a weird, mockable people. Go deep with it. Dig deep, my friends. Like, it's too good.
That is good. That's why I like it. That's
Utah.
why I like the ginger ale thing. Just think about like the wild parties that take place after a huge upset win.
Who did they play in the first game of the season? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I'll check.
Whoever they played, someone had taken a picture on the concourse. It was like halftime, and there was like 2 people in line to buy beer, and they have like a designated concession stand for like sodas and waters and stuff. There was like 200 people in that line, and there was like 2 people in line to get beer. And it was like a visiting. It was either a visiting fan or like a visiting media member, and it was like, hey, if you want to get drunk real quick, go to BYU games.
Yeah,
there's no waiting line.
That's exactly right. Yeah, there's never going to be a line for beer.
No.
They beat Arizona in week 1, so certainly that was a couple of different things. fan bases. That's awesome, man. That's too good. Yeah, that's a huge win.
Frick
huge
Utah.
Win. Frick Utah. There you go. We come back on the afternoon sports drive. We will round things out in this first hour by taking a look at a few more games that went on around the country. Zach kind of previewed. Texas is not back once again. They were the embarrassment of the weekend.
They're really not back.
For a lot of people, no, they're not. So we'll get into that and much more. Coming up next, Afternoon Sports Drive. Welcome in, Afternoon Sports Drive. We're rounding out this first hour. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you. Man, I got skunked this week with college football, okay? I mean, I just got absolutely skunked. Texas is going to Texas, okay? And I knew that you knew. And I
chose the wrong week.
I did. I even said on Friday, hey, I expect to take heat for this if it doesn't work, but I'm fully confident that Texas is going to get it done. Arkansas is not that good. It's been a while since they've been good, and Texas is rolling. They're going to come in off that week 1 win, and they're going to steamroll. And it was completely opposite. I mean, it wasn't even just a loss. It was a steamroll. They got blasted from start to finish. And so, yeah, my hands up here. I admit it. I bought in to what Texas and Steve Sarkisian was doing after a week. And it wasn't just me. I've seen the famous clip going around of game day. Everybody had Texas. It was swept.
I had Texas.
Everybody had Texas, man. But Texas, once again, not back. They went in and got smacked around by Sam Pittman and company.
I'll tell you who I had, though. Iowa.
You did. That was the other one.
Nailed that one.
That was the other one.
There's just something about, and Iowa State made a comeback. Iowa scored 20 points off of 4 turnovers.
Yeah, and Iowa is sneaky good.
Iowa's got a chance of making the playoffs if the Big Ten continues in this direction.
They really have a chance to be competing at the end. I really think that. I again was confident. I put my confidence in 2 Big 12 teams this week. Yeah, it was not good. I said Texas and Iowa State going to get it done.
Yeah,
Brock Purdy, man. There's
something with that Iowa State team.
I gave him one final chance this year. Said Brock Purdy, let him. He's going to come back. Believe in him to take those next steps to really, because that's what Iowa State needed to get to this. They're a really good team. We know that running game is incredible. Breece Hall, now he's had somewhat of a slow start, but you need the quarterback to step up. 3 picks and no touchdowns. I mean, the dude looked confused out there. And once again, very below average, and he has been before. But that was a terrible, terrible performance, man. It really, really was. So they both goosed me pretty bad. And then the other one I saw the end of was Ohio State not being able to get it done against Oregon.
Wild.
How about that?
Oh, my God.
You get Ohio State coming in and taking an early loss.
That was what they say. This is the third 30-point they've given up 30 points in a row, I think. Third straight game. You go back to the bowl game, and then week 1, and now week 2.
You've got Ohio State and Clemson both with a loss within a couple of weeks.
I'm okay with the Clemson loss, though.
I think
Georgia's going to – and it wasn't like Georgia went out there and beat them, 45-7. I mean, what was it, 14-7 or
no, it was
7-3 or something?
10-3.
10-3. Yeah. I mean, it was just just a weird anomaly. I'll tell you what set the Ohio State game off, though, was the band leader just completely biffing it before the game. Did you see that?
I did.
Oh, my God. Well, I'll tell you, first of all, you're running down a ramp that immediately turns into flat. And so you could tell the dude's super nervous.
Yep.
Full stadium, didn't account for the flattening of the ground, and just biffed it. I mean, that. First of all, it had to hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Second, that's got to be one of the most embarrassing moments of that kid's life, because there aren't many band leaders across the country that get cheered for as much as the Ohio State band leader.
Yeah, no, that one was a big yikes. And then the third one that offered me this weekend, I knew better than to do it, but I thought even Mizzou could beat Kentucky. No, nope. not gonna happen. I went over. That was a bad deal. I'm glad I didn't put money down like I did with the NFL games, because I only went 1 for 2 on a little parlay I did on that one. So that was kind of a bummer as well. So not a great opening weekend as far as picks and betting goes.
You heard it here first. Patrick Wheeler should not work for Vegas.
That's right. I thought.
I've been saying for weeks.
What was it like? No, it was like a week or two ago. I said I should be working for Vegas. Now I come in this week. No.
So if you need good odds, come to Patrick. If you want to lose money, also come to Patrick.
Yeah, I can do it all, man. I'm really a dynamic talent in that sense.
Yeah, you are.
Another game I thought Clearly, Oklahoma was not happy with what
My
happened
God.
in week 1 and how close that game was, and they win 76-0 over Western Carolina.
That was insane. That was wild.
That was insane. And then Miami, as we know, you schedule Appalachian State, you know you're going to get a game. You said
was so close.
They pull it off. Miami does. They win by 2, 25-23.
The best thing about that game was the drunk fan saving the cat with the American flag.
It was one of the most amazing videos I've ever seen. That is so good. If you haven't seen it yet, you got this. There's a cat literally hanging from one of the upper deck railings or something. It's like a string or whatever he's hanging on to.
It looked like he was he had somehow came out of one of the the covers, like one of the banners.
Yeah.
And then the banner started to fray, and he's hanging down like 6 inches.
Yeah,
and
he's
hanging onto string with his claw.
You can see it, and the guys underneath him having how great was it that they caught him in an American flag?
And then held him up for a little bit before the cat started to freak out.
To bite him.
But they were like, "Oh, we got it!" And everyone just went bananas. I think
awesome.
it would have been fine if everyone hadn't just went bananas.
Yeah.
But then everyone started screaming, and the cat just started clawing him and biting him.
Oh, it's so funny because I've seen there's a guy leaning over the rail trying to grab the cat.
Hold my feet.
But but then I saw a couple people underneath, the comments like, he isn't even trying. How dare that guy? I'm like, do you know what cats will do?
Well, and
just scratch his face off, man. He's not going to try to get him.
First of all, if a cat falls from, 30 feet?
Yeah, at least.
There's a decent chance it probably lives. Okay? I'm not saying that it absolutely survives.
There's that famous video, of the cat that fell like something crazy amount of stories, like more than that, and it landed on its feet and walked off.
Now, I'm not saying that it's perfectly healthy, but there's a decent chance that cat lives. And if a guy falls from 30 feet, he probably lives too, but there's a chance he ain't walking.
He'd probably rather not live.
Oh my gosh.
But that was, the fact that they thought about, let's get the flag. And so we have like a little, basically, way to catch him instead of us trying to catch him bare hand, because that would have been brutal.
Real firefighter hero stuff.
Firefighter, literally, he picks it up.
We're gonna hold out our banner, and you're gonna fall into it.
And it was an American flag, and then he pulls him up and does the Simba moment, and
awesome.
Everyone just loses. It was so great. What a
moment.
classic moment. The other classic one I will say too, Zach, real quick before we go to break. Florida State is cursed. Plain and simple.
They're going to continue to stay cursed because of their offensive lineman proposing to his girlfriend after the loss.
How bad is that? Jacksonville State comes in. I forget what they paid him now. It was a crazy amount of money to come in. Jacksonville State wins on the last play, 20-17. And I heard the broadcast, was thrown on Twitter of the Florida State guys, and the play-by-play guys like
$400,000.
Wow,
paid him $400,000 to lose.
Hey, come beat us. The play-by-play guy's doing his thing. You can hear the color guy after a little bit of time has passed, and the guys run around the end zone and go, wow. And you just hear the clunk of the headset being thrown down on the ground.
Did you see the group of cheerleaders?
Yeah. There's a girl.
She's fighting back, laughing. She's in disbelief, and then she starts laughing.
She's got the sign that says "Get Loud" on it, and she's walking with the two male cheerleaders behind her. And they have this absolutely stunned look on their face, and it's an instant classic. Like, Jacksonville State will hang that up in their Hall of Fame, and then underneath it, they zoomed in on it just perfectly, and someone, of course, paused it to where it says touchdown underneath, and they chopped it to where it just says ouch underneath, and it shows their faces. It's one of the best things I've ever seen. And then, like you said, to make matters worse, the Florida State offensive lineman proposes to his fiance on the field that Jacksonville State is celebrating on.
What are you doing?
What? We couldn't have waited? I mean, just wait till you win next week, dude. Put your engagement off 1 week. You can do it. It's fine. Unbelievable.
Well, why would you choose? And I understand. I mean, I proposed it in an opportune time. It was really stupid. I had this elaborate thing planned, and I changed it. It's spur of the moment. So, I mean, love makes you do crazy things. But, like, even if you blow Jacksonville State out by 50, like, that's the game you want to propose at?
Come on.
How'd you guys get engaged? Oh, your dad proposed to me after a Jacksonville State loss at home.
He just got his ass kicked by a team that no one even knows exists, and they came in and beat him, and then he said, will you marry me? And I should have said no in hindsight because that was embarrassing.
Come back to me in a few weeks.
How great would that have been? No, go work on your game. Come back and we'll see.
I don't marry losers.
You know what? That Jacksonville State offensive lineman's looking pretty good right about now. All right, we come back in hour number 2. Buy or sell is coming up next here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Welcome in hour number 2 of the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster here with you on this Monday afternoon. I give credit to Levi for popping his head in.
Levi.
It was Levi because...
That was Tom Selleck.
Oh, Tom Selleck for popping his head in because of the beating that he's taking in Week 1 fantasy from me. It's bad. You know it's bad, Levi.
Is Patrick going to get a Darren Waller jersey?
No, it's not. Well, the picks are. I'm also up by 1.
Oh, I thought you said I was up
No,
by 1.
I'm up by 1 on the picks.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's changed tonight because don't you have the Raiders?
No, we both have Ravens.
Okay, so you're up by. You're lucky this
Yeah,
week. You're
I'm
lucky.
going to win by 1.
Don't forget, we're going to change things around like we did last time because you went up
That's-
early last time.
That's
Remember
true.
about that.
I told you that's what would happen. I'd go up early.
Plus, also, it's not my fault. Literally, all of my guys except Alvin Kamara have underperformed.
Underperformed big time.
You both, Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes combined for 100 points. My team only has 100 points.
They went off. Levi, when I was watching the Chiefs game, all he did was every time he threw, Tyreek's on the other end. Let's just rack them up, boys. Let's just rack them up.
But don't forget, Cleveland in that game, they looked really good. They're going to be dangerous.
They gave him a heck of a game, dude. That's for sure. That is, woo. You're right. Cleveland's going to be dangerous. I know everyone tried to tell me. I knew they were, but
I warned you.
hey, Chiefs got it done in the end, man. That's all that matters. All right, we're going to get into some buy or sell to start off this second hour.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You'll pick up the phone and you'll sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, make money.
Buy or sell, Afternoon Sports Drive. Triple Play Sports Radio. Okay, Zach, let's see what I got for you today.
I'm ready.
Kicking off this week with, here we go, tonight.
Yeah.
We've got the Ravens and the Raiders in the first Monday night game of the season. We know the Ravens have been dealing with injury after injury after injury.
Most unfortunate week.
Running backs dropping like flies. J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill. Now you look into the secondary. Marcus Peters is a no-go as well, which is still a pretty big loss based off the production he tends to have out there. But I'm going to look at wide receivers tonight. We know Tylan Wallace is on this team. Buy or sell that he catches a pass in tonight's Monday night matchup.
Ow. Sorry, I hit my funny bone.
Careful.
Yeah, I'll buy that for sure. I got a little too overambitious because I was going to be like, buy, and then when I slung my elbow out, I whapped it on the wall. Yeah, I'll buy that for sure. I mean, you look at all the running backs that dropped over the past couple. I mean, they had to cancel practice. They had 2 guys tear ACLs, and one of them won at running back, but they had 2 guys tear ACLs in one practice, like within 30 minutes of each other. So they had to cancel practice, and you look at receiver health for Baltimore. It's not great. I mean, it's not horrible. It's not like running backs, but it's not great. I would have to think the way that Tylan played towards the end of preseason, I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and haul in 90 yards and a touchdown or 2. I'm not even saying he's going to score a touchdown in the first game, but he'll get 3 or 4 targets. He'll haul in a couple passes tonight, maybe have 35, 40 yards, give or take. So yeah, I'll buy that. I think he has a really solid, a really decent first game in the NFL.
Yeah, it's he's at least in a good opportunity for him because he was going to be a little deeper on the depth chart coming in. We know that Rashad Bateman is on the injured reserve. Miles Boykin also on the injured reserve. Sammy Watkins, I'm kind of interested to see what all he does. Marquise Brown, you know how I feel about him as well. It's got Devin Duvernay. So there's guys in front of him, including Mark Andrews at tight end, who will probably hog most of the targets tonight as well. So I would probably... I think I might have to sell it. I'm not too confident that he catches a pass tonight. I think he will at least see more snaps than we originally thought, too. But this is, and eventually as well, Zach, it's going to be one of those seasons for him. If you've got guys that are continuing to get injured, I think Sammy Watkins is bound for it as much as, we call him Hammy Watkins. He's due for an injury. It's sooner or later. I hate it for him, but it just is at this point. So I think that he probably, I would say, sell for the most part. I would like to see him get a couple of touches tonight just to kind of get his feet wet. Nice
I'll
little way to do it.
I'll forever if you present Tylan Wallace to me, I'll forever take the over. Unless you're talking like penalties. I'll forever take the over on Tylan Wallace. I mean, that kid is it's insane.
And I would like him to
I got a big Tylan Wallace bias.
Yeah.
I'll take whatever you present me with Tylan Wallace. If it's good, I'll take the over.
Yeah, I would like to see, because I mentioned Mark Andrews. So curious to see how many snaps Tylan gets, first of all. But second, if you get Mark Andrews hogging up a lot of the defense, it opens up stuff for a guy like Tylan. So I think he will need to be used more. I'd say that right now. Because if he comes out tonight and it's pretty limited and you've got Sammy Watkins and Marquise Brown flying all over the place doing nothing, which I'm kind of expecting, then they need to end up using him a little bit more. But I do think he's going to get a lot more time early than we probably would have thought because of these injuries, that's for sure.
So I'm, ironically enough, going with an injury type of question. This is what Mike Gundy had to say when asked about Hunter Woodard. He said, I would hate to predict. I thought there was a chance Tay Martin was going to play. Tay goes out there the first play of the game, first drive of the game, and you could tell something's off, drops a pass, and the middle of the second quarter, we see him sending out tweets about Jaden Bray's touchdown. It was like, well, Tay Martin's not coming back in the game because you're not supposed to have your phone on game day. Probably going to see him back against Boise State, I would think. Buy or sell, we see him back, and he scores a touchdown in the first half against Boise.
I'll buy that he's back because, again, it was that ankle injury that was just kind of tweaking, that he did tweak eventually there, and I thought he was going to play through it initially. I kind of thought that'd be something, and we had reports before the game. He was questionable. Was he going to play? I reported said he was probably on the wrong side of questionable based off what we were hearing. Ultimately, probably shouldn't have given it a go even. So I expect him to be back, get some extra rest since he didn't really have to play in that game at all, going into a game in Boise where I think they're going to need him. That's for sure. I liked what I saw of Jaden Bray. That was encouraging. That was really good for a young guy to see that. Also with Bryson Green, another guy that you're basically, like I said, throwing him in the fire. It's baptism by fire here, saying, hey, either sink or you swim as a freshman. Go out there and get it done, because we need guys that are going to have to fill in. So I buy that Tay is going to come back. Touchdown in the first half. Okay, I think I can lean that way if he's back and fully ready to go and he's not on a snap count, by any means.
That's the
yeah.
point right
If he's
there.
not on a pitch count, I could buy that because that was probably a piece for sure that you could give somewhat of the blame to Spencer Sanders not having out there, right? Like if he was out there, I think it might have slowed things down a little bit for a guy.
Had a lot
like
of
Spencer.
Rookies learning on the fly,
right? Which you're going to have to deal
not
with.
a huge excuse.
No,
but
it's not.
Definitely something to factor in.
Yeah, and that's why again I think Tay just kind of calms the waters a little bit, even for a guy like Spencer. So I think I could buy that because if he is out there and it's not on a pitch count, Spencer certainly will look his way a lot. And in the red zone too, which gives him a good chance of catching one.
I'll buy both, and the reason I'm buying it's if the main factor going into this is if he's healthy, if there's no hindrance to that foot, if he's able to, to work through it this week, and he's back, and he'll have, 6 or 7 targets in the first half. And you look at that opening drive against Missouri State. Now Boise State's going to be better than Tulsa and probably better than Missouri State. But if you look at that first drive with Shane Illingworth, I mean they moved down the field pretty quick. And if the offensive line can hold, obviously Tay Martin is Spencer's number one target. That was evident in the spring game. It was evident that he was Shane Illingworth's number one target. And if he'd have been out there on Saturday, Spencer would have been throwing to him all day long, successful or not. Tay showed in that first game that he's ready for this. I'm excited to see what he can bring. I hope that the run game is more improved than it was last week. I hope the play calling is more improved than it was last week. So I'll buy it. I don't think he'll go out there and Oklahoma State's just going to roll. But I think if you had to say that Oklahoma State's going to score a passing touchdown in the first half, which I can't imagine there's been many games that Oklahoma State hasn't scored a passing touchdown in the first half. If I had to pick, it would probably be to Tay, so I'll buy it.
Okay, so yesterday, one win that I thought was actually really impressive in the NFL was the Chargers. And they got it done against Washington. By the way, gave me that edge over Levi that I was talking about, picked that extra game. We kind of went back and forth on that one. And the Chargers start off 1-0. I thought it was – the reason I thought it was so big is because you saw young guys step up. You saw a new change in coaching, and it seems to have already paid off in week one. So with that win to open the season, buy or sell that they end up winning 10-plus games this year?
I'll buy that. I think obviously Herbert would need to continue and not have not have the, I don't know if you want to call it traditional, but have that sophomore slump. He needs to continue to go out there and play really well. He obviously has a good team around him. I think that's the most important thing, is that he has an experienced team and a talented team around him. Even if he struggles a little bit more than he did last year, I think the team around he was good enough last year. He's great last year. If he's just good enough this year, he has a good enough team around him that Los Angeles could win 12 with their eyes closed, I think. So I would buy 10. I'm not saying that they're going to win 12 or more, but I think 10 games, that's just a little bit more than half, I think is very, very doable, and that's not including any potential playoff game that they might play and win. Now, the AFC is tough, no doubt about it, but you look at what they did last year, most of the pieces are back. If he just plays okay, they could win 10, at least 10.
Yeah, no, I think, and it was impressive on a bunch of different levels. One, because the Chargers are starting to finally establish themselves, finally, a little bit more. And people wondered, is Justin Herbert going to come out and struggle or not? He didn't. He picked up right where he left off. He had a great game yesterday. 337 yards, 31 of 47, and the biggest one for me, 13 of 16 on third down. Mm-hmm. He moved the chains all night, and he really dissected and did whatever he wanted against the Washington defense, which is, at least up front, pretty solid. Now, they didn't really get to him either. I thought that the offensive line looked really good. They got a couple of young guys that stepped up and protected the heck out of him. So he had all day to throw. You see what he does with his receivers, and he has a couple of guys that are such good route runners. Keenan Allen is so underrated.
Yeah.
I mean, he is one of the best in the game, and he doesn't make headlines as often as he should. But he goes out there like normal, 9 more catches, nice and easy day, gets open all the time. He had Mike Williams involved. Jared Cook comes over in the offseason and was immediately involved. Austin Eckler, doing his thing on the ground. And then the defense. I think that this is a very stingy team overall that nobody wants to end up playing this season. I really, really do. I can't wait to see Kansas City and them square off this year, because I think it's going to be back and forth. Herbert was a mistake away last year from beating him in his rookie season. So I'm excited for those to happen, but I'll buy. I think this is easily, to me, a 10-plus team, 10-plus win team.
Easily.
11-12 wins. Playoff team. I like them. I like them knocking on the door of a playoff berth this season. I really do. Justin Herbert is not slowing down. He's your ideal size for the quarterback you want. He's gonna be able to see over the defense, make plays, and he's got this group rolling right now. And look, you take Anthony Lynn out of the head coach, and things change. Okay, Anthony Lynn was a disaster last year, making mistakes that no coach is supposed to make in the National Football League. They bring in Brandon Staley. He comes in, he rocks and rolls. I think it is great to see, and that was a big win against a Washington football team that a lot of people thought we're gonna take the reins and run with it. Now Ryan Fitzpatrick gets hurt. He's on the ER. That you never want to see that, or the IR, I should say. I'm sorry. And Taylor Heineke's going to end up being the guy. So, and he certainly looked better than Fitzpatrick did, but still, you've got weapons on that team that you hate to see go to waste this year. So they're all of a sudden in a little bit of a world of hurt at Washington, I believe, for the moment. But big win for the Chargers. I thought it was one of the more impressive ones to me, because they came out and looked like they were poised, ready to go. Justin Herbert, I'm telling you, man, start of year 2, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks going forward in the entire league for the foreseeable future, barring any type of catastrophic injuries. He's that talented.
Yeah, absolutely. So Nebraska started their year terrible. Got beat by a I don't want to say horrible, but got beat by Illinois. All right,
Yeah.
let's just say that
Yeah.
they got beat by. They beat the brakes off of Fordham the next week, and then they 28-3 win over Buffalo. That's a struggle for me. That's a struggle in my book. You should have beat Buffalo by 100. The game of the century is coming up next week. Nebraska goes into number 3 OU. OU right now, Monday, so keep that in mind. OU is currently 22-point favorites. The way Nebraska's been playing, the way OU bounced back from that near loss to Tulane in week 1, buy or sell, OU beats Nebraska by at least 40 points.
Yeah, Oklahoma got exactly what they wanted as, coming off, like you said, just a 5-point win over Tulane. Then they bounced back, and it's everybody's firing on all cylinders. There was no competition. Western Carolina shouldn't have even showed up type of thing. So they get what they wanted going into this game where they're feeling real good about themselves. I know it's a blowout, and they understand, that there was nobody that was going to stop them in that game. But as a player, you also feel good. When you put up 76 points and you do what those players did in that game, feel good about yourself. All right, I'm in a little bit of a rhythm here. I can carry this over to the next week. And I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think Nebraska is anywhere near on the level, even looking up at the level that Oklahoma is on right now. It's not even close to me. I think this is going to be a blowout. I think it could be nearing, I'm not kidding, Zach, nearing 40 at halftime. I really, really do. So, yes, I will buy that. They're going to win. They're going to get back-to-back blowouts. Everyone's going to be talking about, look, Nebraska is really everybody already knows, but they're really a shell of their former selves. Scott Frost just doesn't have it going on with this team, and they certainly do not deserve to compete against teams like Oklahoma, who are so far and beyond what they are right now. So, yeah, give me that buy. I don't think it's going to be close.
It's going to be real bad. It's going to be an ugly game. It's not going to be one to watch. I don't really go out of my way to watch OU football anyway. And I watched a little bit of that Tulane game last week, but I don't really watch OU football.
Well, you tune in because you saw the score and you're like, come on now. Come on, Tulane.
That's the thing right there. Yeah, absolutely. Upset alert. And then they started doing well, and I was like, oh, this is me. I got to turn this off. This is my cue. Nebraska is not a good football team. They haven't been a good football team for a long time. Scott Frost is not the answer that they thought he was going to be. Hey, they're not playing well. Let's take away their music. Yeah, great punishment there, Scotty. They have no chance. They have absolutely no chance. They got a snowball's chance of winning in Norman. I'm with you. I think OU has a chance of being up like 45-13 and a half, and then they'll pull away in the second. There's no way Nebraska wins this game. It even gets close to winning this game. It's going to be embarrassing. This game deserves. By the end of this game, I don't care all the history in the world between these two monumental programs. This game deserves to be an 11 a.m. game. They should have played this game at 9 in the morning. This is going to be a snooze fest.
Completely agree. So I mentioned to you, Zach, too, I'll give you my picture real quick for tonight's game and see if you agree, if you like them. Baltimore and Las Vegas tonight in Vegas, which I can't wait to see, by the way, a packed-out stadium finally there in Vegas to see the Raiders fans back as much as I can't stand the Raiders. Their fan base is insane.
Yeah.
I picked Baltimore to win on Friday, and the spread is at 3.5. I would actually take Vegas on that plus 3.5. I think it's going to be like a 3-point game right there. So I would go under that. And the total's at 50.5 right now. I think I'd take the under as well.
I would, yeah.
I think I would take the under. I got it when I said the Oklahoma State game. You and Levi relentlessly made fun of me and bashed my character on the airwaves and everything for taking the under, and I am looking down, waving at you guys.
What was the over?
What was the line? The total for that for the Oklahoma State game? I forget now off the top of my head. I just know I took the under and I got it.
Yeah, was it more than 52?
I think it was probably somewhere around there.
Like 55.5 or something.
That's what I'm going. I'm going under tonight, and I'm going Ravens to win, but I like the Raiders at plus 3.5. It's going to be a 3-point victory for Baltimore.
Give me 17-14.
Oh,
Baltimore.
He's also going the under. Hey, there's room for you.
Well, I mean, you look at these two teams, and it's not like you're watching, two world-class world beaters or anything like that. Now, I think Baltimore is going to be decent this year, but Sorry, Darren, you're not scoring. Give me 17-14 Baltimore.
Oh, 17-14. All right, I like it. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, we're going to take a look at a couple of games that happened yesterday. Chiefs get it done, but it was a tight win over the Browns, certainly not flawless by any means. One team that absolutely was not flawless yesterday, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers lay a massive egg.
So that's why he came back to Green Bay.
Yeah.
To screw him.
For that reason, exactly. When we come back, we'll look at those games here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Welcome back in, hour number 2 of the Afternoon Sports Drive as we keep rolling here in the second hour. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you on this Monday afternoon. Yesterday, Zach, the Browns come rolling into Kansas City, give them a heck of a game. It was reminiscent of the battle in the playoffs last year. The good news was Patrick Mahomes stayed healthy through the entire game, unlike last year. You didn't have to ask Chad Henne to get you a miracle win at the end.
And he took a shot, too.
Yeah, he did.
My
a couple
goodness.
times, actually.
Yeah.
He got sandwiched once, and the Browns came at him, that's for sure. I thought the best thing with that, because Myles Garrett, talented, no doubt, people were worried about him coming in this week, and Mahomes got him on a couple of crucial times on hard counts, like he does. You even got a guy like Myles Garrett to jump a couple of big plays. Cleveland came out, and I think they looked really good. Baker was composed. The offensive line looked good. The rushing attack is always good. They gashed the Chiefs' defense. They came out like the Chiefs' defense, man, I said this. They were giving me the PTSD flashbacks of 2018 when they couldn't stop anybody. Those first few drives, the Browns were really just doing whatever they wanted. They were taking up time. Kansas City barely had the ball in the first quarter. It took up a lot of time. And clearly, Tyrann Mathieu was back and forth all week whether he was going to play. He was on the sidelines, but apparently couldn't give it a go, coming off COVID. So him not being out there, they missed him a ton, like a lot. He makes that defense go. And when he wasn't out there, they had to adjust, and they did eventually, but it took a while. And you knew Kansas City would turn it on in the second half when they did. They always tend to do that. Just for some reason with this team, as talented as they are, they struggle coming out of the gate more often than not, it seems. They don't really jump out and scare anybody as much as they maybe originally did when Mahomes came in. Now all of a sudden it's we're going to lull you and we're not going to play very well, and then a couple quarters, and we get in the second half and all of a sudden we turn it on, which they have the ability to do, but for the fan base's sake, maybe
Well, those 8-9 minute drives.
They had a few of those that were
goodness.
really sustained, and then you had like on 2 plays, and Mahomes goes 75 yards to Tyreek and scores, right? So it's crazy how off and on you can do that.
Well, did you listen to? I mean, it was the Mahomes walks up to the post game press, walks up to the podium.
Yeah.
The first question was about the Tyreek Hill meme. Yeah, well, he's open down the field, and Patrick was like, yeah, that's the first thing I thought of actually when I was like, he's out there. Just heave it deep.
Which is funny because I was actually thinking that. I really thought that after he threw it to Tyreek. I was like, you know what? He really does have to be just sometimes, Tyreek's down there somewhere. He'll catch it. Because he threw that ball up on one-on-one.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a ball where if the defender hadn't overrun it, probably could have at least attempted to make a play on it, but he clearly overruns it. Tyreek adjusts, and he's gone. So it's easy to do that at times with the speed of Tyreek. But Mahomes, I'm telling you, man, you look at that game, and you've become really accustomed to seeing the arm angles, the sidearm stuff. He's got a defender rushing him off the edge, and he's able to throw it around the defender and make a completion. It's unbelievable. He's the best quarterback in the game right now. He just is. He does those things, and the big part of it too was he was composed in the second half. He never worries, and it doesn't show. Even if he is worried, he's always got the confidence because he knows he's going to go out there and make a play, and he did. Tyreek, huge day, nearly 200 yards in the first game of the season. Kelsey still ends up with 2 touchdowns. You've got your weapons. They used Clyde a little bit more in the passing game. He didn't get to do much on the ground, but he did carry most of the load. I think Darrell Williams is the only one that had another snap at running back, so he's clearly the guy. And then, Zach, at the end, the defense stepped up. Chris Jones went ham in the second half.
Absolutely.
And that was without Frank Clark. He was a no-go dealing with an injury. It wasn't the Uzi thing. It was the injury. Maybe I just had to say that. But he's over there on the sideline. So Chris Jones comes in and starts making some plays, and he got into the face of Baker late, man. It was great.
I wonder how soon in Colin Cowherd's show did he address the interception, the last play of the game?
I can tell you because I had it on.
Oh, my God.
He started the show with it.
Because Baker played so well.
Right.
I mean,
He
the
did.
Browns were so good. And then that was such – I mean, he had a receiver in the area, but that was such an ill-advised throw.
And let me take this a little deeper for you.
Perfect.
Okay?
I was hoping.
Because this proves my point
Yeah.
on Baker, which I've said he has improved big time.
Sure.
He came out and looked really good. But why did he look really good? Not just the talent he has, things that he needs to go well were going well. The offensive line is good. They're running the football effectively and setting him up, okay? And then you add on his talent of he was putting footballs in the right spot where only his guys could get it.
Yeah.
He was leading them. He was accurate, so that was good to see. But on the interception, he was taken out of his comfort zone.
A lot of pressure.
Those things were out of the way. He was forced to make a play. He was forced to go off script, make a play on his own, on the run type of thing, and win and keep the drive alive. And he still doesn't have that ability to do that successfully. He needs everything set up for him still. He's a good quarterback. He really is. And Cleveland's a good team. They're going to be dangerous, man. That first week, if I'm a Cleveland Browns fan, I'm not feeling terrible about that by any means. You're playing the Chiefs for crying out loud.
Levi's probably right.
He is. They're going to be a good team all season long. But when you're asking him to improvise and make that play, he shows once again, and by now, it's kind of that's his form. He's not breaking out of that. He still has that side to him as a QB. Talented, yes, but unlike the elites in the game, which one he happened to be playing against, he needs a lot of things to work in his favor. And so that showed, I think it just highlighted it perfectly on that play. Because he moves up, he tries to move up in the pocket. Dirty Dan Sorensen, who I can't believe the amount of plays he's made in the last few years that have actually led directly to the Chiefs winning. He gets after it and trips him up at the end there, causes him to throw it off balance. Mike Hughes comes up with the interception, and the game is over. But it's just not Baker's style to do that. And again, Zach, when Kansas City gives him the ball back with 3+ minutes to work with, you got to make something happen. And he didn't. It was just like last year in the playoff game, right? That game was handed to Cleveland. And they had revenge on their minds coming in and once again got a chance at the end and didn't do anything with it.
And that's what's going to be scary about Cleveland this year is they're not used to being in that position, and I think that's the reason the game didn't quite go the way they thought it would. But that happened in game 1. That wasn't week 12, week 13. That right there shows me that Cleveland is going to be pretty damn good because they're going to be able to figure it out.
They competed with one of the best teams in the league down to the end. And they clearly, the script was on point to start off. They script those plays, and they attacked Kansas City's defense. They attacked it without Tyrann Mathieu, knew that he wasn't going to be lurking back there and they could make plays. And it was everybody they were burning. It wasn't just, Travarius Ward, who I don't think is very good anyways, but Jarius Sneed was having to catch up to guys. Tight ends were running past him. Didn't look good. The defensive front was getting no pressure, and they turned it around finally, but it took a while. All right, so Kansas City escapes with that one. They'll face Baltimore next Sunday night, which should be a good one. Let's talk about the Packers. What in the world is going on in Green Bay? Aaron Rodgers 100% laid an egg. It was terrible. It was honestly, Zach, the worst I've seen him play in a very, very long time. A very long time. But nobody looked good on that team. With him not going, Devontae couldn't do anything. Aaron Jones was non-existent running the football. The defense was terrible. Hopefully for them, this is just a week 1 thing. But it's bad when you're getting subbed out in the final quarter for your backups in week 1 because you're losing so bad. What kind of poetic, sort of in a twisted, weird way, was it to have to see Jordan Love come in the fourth quarter?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, man, I'm back on my conspiracy train. There's no way that that performance was that he is that bad. There's no way that drop off was that bad. You can't tell me that he's not going out there and saying, I don't have a lot left in me, so.
And that's kind of what, I saw a little bit of the interview he had sat down with Aaron Andrews and done before the game. And he said that he felt like he had nothing left to prove out there on the field. And I'm like, well, it really
Obviously.
did. It looked like that out there, that's for sure.
What's crazy is I saw the end of the game, and I was like, there's no way. that Jameis Winston is, and now he was 14 to 20, 148 yards, which the completion percentage was pretty solid. Dude, had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That was wild. And then gave probably the best post-game quote of the year.
Awesome.
What did he say? We need to be prepared.
Yeah, I watched the extension of that interview. He actually went on and explained, which is good. But yeah, that was great. But Aaron Rodgers needs to move on from the offseason, man. And the Packers need to move on from the offseason. Yeah. I think that, and what Aaron Rodgers did still has everybody talking, still has everybody consumed by it. As much as the Packers like to say the offseason is the offseason, we're here now. No, man. Clearly everything's carried over into week 1 because nobody looked good. And it's still a huge distraction. He better wake up and go play, or this season's falling apart all of a sudden, and we got more drama than we ever would have thought. Then people are going to start saying, "Oh man, what is going on? Was he maybe he was serious about retirement?" I mean, look at this. So things got to change, and I think the Packers they're too good overall for things not to change. But you mentioned Jameis. Yes, the yardage total, and that's what's crazy. That's efficiency right there. Yeah. Under 200 yards, but he throws 5 touchdowns. And he had guys wide open at times. He had guys go up and make great catches for him. But he looked composed, man. And this was a team with nobody at the playmakers' positions besides Alvin Kamara. There was nobody. Michael Thomas is out. There's nobody else that you can confidently go to, and he could have cared less about that. He used what he had at his disposal, and he made things work. And also, as far as the Packers go again, the Saints' defense isn't good.
Right.
They're rebuilding. They're in the midst of a rebuild, and they stopped Aaron Rodgers all day. Like, what does that tell you? Something's clearly not quite right with that offense. So it really was unbelievable. Sitting there, I could not believe what I was watching. The Drew Brees-less Saints team whooping like they did. And you mentioned the interview afterwards. I got to say, watching the interview Jameis gave afterwards, he has that funny line, but he continues to go on. The maturity that we have seen from Jameis Winston coming into the league, had a bunch of issues in college, we all know, stupid things he did in college. Comes into the league, still immature, right? But we can see the talent is there. He's got the arm talent, he can throw for a ton of yards, he can throw a lot of touchdowns, but he's also going to make terrible decisions. He's going to throw interceptions all day, and he's not going to win you games. But yesterday, he looked calm, he looked composed. Afterwards, when he spoke with the guys on the interview, he was mature with his answers. He gave credit to everybody else, which is what a QB is supposed to do, at least one that is mature and talking like that. And I thought back to where he started in the league to now has been an amazing transition to watch. And it made me also think I should CC right now a guy like Dwayne Haskins. He came to mind and said he's kind of the same thing. Dealt with a lot of off-the-field stuff, super immature. I'm going to be look, it can be done. Because a lot of people gave up on Jameis Winston, and he comes out week 1 and does that against a fully healthy, ready-to-go Packers team with one of the best quarterbacks to ever play. He goes out there and shreds this team, has them rocking and rolling like Drew Brees never left. That is a serious jump from where he was when he first came into the league.
That's Drew Brees. That's the Drew Brees effect.
I 100% agree.
That's all there is to it. I mean, you look at the talent level. We knew he was talented. He's always had it. But I was so down on him. And it's game 1. I mean, we don't know what the rest of the season's going to hold. But he is talented. And you look at what he did, and Tampa Bay got rid of him, and what they do. They went and won a Super Bowl. They had a talented team, and they went and won a Super Bowl without him. You spend a little bit of time behind Drew Brees, and that's the effect. You have the talent, and you get the maturity level from Drew Brees. That's a perfect combination.
We like to say that Patrick Mahomes might have had the most beneficial sitting out of a season, learning from Alex Smith.
Maybe not.
If it continues to go like that for Jameis, what he did by sitting there and absorbing and learning from Drew Brees, and he said in that interview that Drew had called him and told him he was watching all this, and he felt so proud to make Drew Brees proud. That just shows me that he's taking it upon himself to understand, hey, I better do it now, or I might fade out before it's too long. He's seen plenty of guys do that before him, and he didn't want to be one of them. So I thought it was great to see. I'm rooting for Jameis. I want him to continue down this path because his idea, mindset, and his ideals and where he is now just a complete 360. And to think that Taysom Hill was in a QB battle with him in the offseason.
No way.
Come on now. This is Jameis's team, man, eating the W's all day. We come back on the Afternoon Sports Drive. We'll round things out. We'll tell you what we learned. It's coming up next. It's the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you. About to say goodbye in the show today, but before we do, we'll tell you what we learned on this Monday.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Well, I learned something today.
Well, I learned, last night, I think it was really, really good to see Matt Stafford thrive, man. He looked good.
Wasn't that great?
We knew he was going to have a great draw, against Chicago, but he's under the lights, new team, new weapons. Cooper Kupp had a huge night with him. Not a shock to see him, rock and roll with Matt Stafford. That makes sense. He's got Robert Woods at his disposal. The run game, even without Cam Akers, is going to be okay. Darrell Henderson's solid. Sony Michel didn't even barely play, so that was interesting. Didn't quite know the playbook yet. But with all that being said, and I think the Rams, again, are on a solid start to a really successful season. I've got them in the Super Bowl. I also learned, looking at the Chicago Bears, that they might be fully okay with going 1-3 or 2-2 at the most in 4 weeks with Andy Dalton. There was a report out today that the Bears would like to not have to put Justin Fields in as a starter before Week 4 is over. And I'm thinking to myself, last night, Andy Dalton didn't do anything again. Justin Fields goes in there on a few plays, which a few of them didn't even make sense. He's out there to take a snap and hand it off or read option in the middle of the field. It wasn't even like an ideal spot to do it. He ends up scoring a touchdown, though, and showed that he does still have, there's that burst that everyone wants to see, that electricity that everybody wants to see, and Andy Dalton doesn't provide that. Same old for Andy Dalton. He's very, very limited. He didn't do anything spectacular. 27 of 38, 206 yards, no touchdowns, threw the interception, and he just averaged 5.4 yards per attempt. That's not going to get it done in the NFL. Now, I know the Rams have a great secondary. They bring guys, Jalen Ramsey's the best one out there on the field most of the time. This was a game where Aaron Donald didn't really even have that much of an impact as compared to what he usually does, and Andy Dalton still couldn't do anything. He is 100% limited. I feel bad for Bears fans, man, because they know it's like, Justin Fields, please get him out there. And then for the Bears to throw him out there for 2 or 3 plays and he actually scores a touchdown, it's like they're just throwing it in their face. Like, we don't care what you think. We're still going to use Andy Dalton. Why? Because he's been there, damn it. I mean, what else is the excuse anymore? It's interesting because we saw this with a couple young guys this week. Jimmy Garoppolo went out, had a pretty good game for the most part. Trey Lance comes in, though, here and there, shows some flash. Same thing with the Bears last night. And I think Matt Nagy, play calling's not good. David Montgomery, their running back, was the best player on the field. That's saying something. They're just in a situation where it's, and I would imagine it's extremely awkward for Andy Dalton, knowing he knows what's about to happen at some point, and he's trying to go out there and play and show other teams I still got it. So when I'm done here, someone else pick me up. But there's nothing, man. And it shows me that the Bears, unless they make a change and we see some dramatic announcement this week that Justin Fields is the guy, they're completely fine going 1-3, 2-2 at the most of these first 4 games when you look at their schedule.
Isn't that wild? Just crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Just crazy. I got 2 things real quick. USC fires Clay Helton. Wild. No surprise there. I sent you a funny tweet, though. College football Reddit. It's a picture of Coach O, picture of Steve Sarkisian, and it's LSU and Texas are actively engaged in conversations with USC for take-see-backsies.
Nice. A bidding war with them over take-sees,
stuff.
backsies.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
So I found out earlier today, Oklahoma State Athletics has the Brander Group. They've launched group licensing for student athletes, and I think this is something similar to what Michigan does. You can buy player jerseys before the game. It's not Nike or anything like that. But what's crazy, the Michigan, I'll have to the percentage detail isn't in this, but like Michigan players, the T-shirt jerseys are $40, and players get 25% of that, which is wild.
25%.
Yeah, wild.
Interesting.
So what this does is they've announced that the Brander Group will establish group licensing for all of its sports, creating a prime opportunity for student athletes to profit off their names using Oklahoma State's official trademarks and logos. So that's going to be huge. You can buy Cade Cunningham jerseys and brand marketing. This group here, they've emerged as a leader in group licensing within college athletics, facilitating opportunities on behalf of student athletes. They also manage the group rights program for the NFL, the NBA, and MLB players associations. So that's going to be huge. I think Oklahoma State athletes can make a considerable amount of money off of this.
Yeah, that's cool. Cade, I wish it would have been here last year. Now they'll still sell the heck out of him.
I'll tell you right now, Cade Cunningham would have made millions. He would have been the first Oklahoma State athlete, and probably the first for a while, that would have had national brand. He'd have been signing with Dr. Pepper.
Yeah, they couldn't have kept that stuff in stock.
No,
if they had
my
that. So
goodness.
that's cool. They can do the past players, things like that too.
Absolutely.
Hey, so get your merch.
One more step closer to NCAA football being back in our lives.
They had something I saw the other day, like a player was on one of the games. Maybe it was Madden or something.
It was basketball. It was a basketball.
That's what it was, yeah.
Levi knows who it is. It was a NBA draft pick, or was it Pablo Poncho or something like that? I can't think of what his name is.
No, it wasn't him.
No, but it was Banchero, or I can't remember what his name is, but he's in the NBA game as a college player.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, hey, if we can do that, why can't we get the game out? And I want college basketball back, too. That was so fun.
That was a really fun game.
It was fun.
For, like 1 or 2 years, something like that?
Let's get it out there. And instead of seeing the guys that they look like who they're supposed to be, but they can't have the names on the back of their jerseys, we can have it all. We can have it all.
Yeah, Paolo Banchero.
There you go. Yeah, that's just one step closer. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. That's Zach Lancaster. I'm Patrick Wheeler. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And until then, everyone have a fantastic Monday evening.
KOKB Perry Stillwater, KOSB Perry Stillwater, KOKB Blackwell, Ponca City, K226CW Stillwater.